Hi guys, and welcome back to another lyrical breakdown. Whoop 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 whoop. With your lady friend, that is me, Bonnie. Uh, yeah, so I'm excited to be here. We have got a long one for you. So this came requested. It comes up time and time again on several videos on our classic quest, kind of all over the place. A lot of people are requesting Lupe Fiasco especially, and this is definitely one of the songs that everybody is asking me to break down. It's a challenge. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, let's get into it because I've got 13 pages of notes and I need to get going because this is gonna take a minute. So buckle in. We're gonna be here for the long haul. Let's do this. Let's get through Mural. So, like I said, I'm doing Lupe Fiasco Mural. This came out January 20th, 2015 off of the album Tetsuo and Youth, which we covered, and you can see like a clickety-click thing if you would like to, open in another tab, save that one for later while still watching this one, Yeah, you can do that and watch, our Classic Quest review or breakdown, I guess, of that album. And we let you know what we think of that. So Lupe Fiasco was like highly, he's pretty popular and like he's very into like lyrical stuff. He's very like a conscious rapper. He does a lot of, he's more on the artistic side of things and less about, I guess, sort of like the gangster, any sort of like he's not a showy kind of guy. So he's very like humble and whatever. And like the front of his album for this album, Tetsuo and Youth, is a painting that he made. So he's artistic in different fields. If he's into paint and he's into writing and he's he talks a lot about spirituality and stuff like that. And it's just really nice to see someone who's so invested in like different forms of art and that they participate in several. I mean, I'm a little jealous, but it's great. You get your creativity out in any way possible. So I think that this one is, based off of the album when we did that. So I kind of have like the knowledge of having done the album before doing this particular song, is that it's told kind of through the seasons. And this mural is it's taking place. The story, I guess, is in the season of summer, which is it just seems very appropriate. So that's why I wanted to do trying to get some like summer type songs. So if you guys know of any that you want me to look into to do for future for the rest of the summer, give me some cool summer songs down below. If there's any like hip hop stuff that you haven't seen covered a million times, let me know. I'd like to check out something new and exciting. So just like a little like cover my ass, I guess, a little bit. This is not like, I don't know what Lupe what he was saying. I don't know what he meant. This is just my thoughts on what he's written and what he's talking about and kind of like his point of view. I'm just trying to like understand what he's trying to tell the listener, and I'm just trying to get my story and just trying to like understand how I understand things. But he's the only one that really knows the answer to what was written about for anything, I guess, of his. But besides that, I definitely had some help with Genius, a few Genius quotes and references here and there, and Google and YouTube and like lots of like outsourcing here, but all on the interwebs. So let's get into it. Like I said, it's going to be long. So let's give it a little listen right about now. To see the vein like a chicken on the bond. Top cat chat, let's. All right, so that was a little clip of the 8-minute and 49-second song that I'm going to be looking into. So, like I said, this took a hot minute. It was a few weeks of me doing all the writing of all of this. It was like writing like a darn essay. So let's do this. Let's start at the very beginning. All right, so the first thing is, we are all chemicals, vitamins, and minerals. Vicodin with inner tubes wrapped around the arm. To see the vein like a chicken on the barn. Top cat chat, let's begin another yarn. That's flying saucer cheese, or is it chicken parm? But roosters don't fly like boosters don't buy, so So what power cowards to get them to the top just to fall asleep listening to Bach. The ribbon in the sky is the rhythm that I drop, dribbling the eye across the prism of a clock. So we are all basically made up of vitamins and minerals. That's why you have to intake to get them to, make sure that you have plenty of vitamins and minerals. And Vicodin is a drug that you can shoot up if that's what you're into, I guess. And the tube thing would be like, you always see that on like Intervention or whatever, or any movie that you've ever seen or TV show that you've ever seen about drug use and about like maybe like needle drug use, where you like wrap the thing, usually it's like a rubber band thing that you wrap around your arm in order to get the vein to shoot up into. I'm not trying to give you tips, just knowledge. So yeah, that's what you do. And to see the vein, that's exactly what, I was telling you about. But in this case, it's a play on words for weather vane. So it's usually like the rooster that's like on top of like, or it's often a rooster. It's not necessarily always a rooster, but it is often a rooster because it's, I guess it's, something that farmers feel it more of a necessity. You need to see the wind vane. So there's, it's usually, like I said, in the shape of a rooster. So that's kind of an interesting play on words. There's a lot of play on words, so I'm sorry if I'm not going through every single one and letting you guys know like every single example, because we would be here for like 5 hours. This is one song. So, it just points to the direction that the wind is blowing. That's it. And Top Cat used to be some animated TV show. I'm guessing maybe he watched it. I've never heard of this before. So maybe he was talking to someone about having watched that. And cats play with yarn. So it just like made me think of, cat playing with yarn. And the cheese has something to do with cat milk cheese, which I didn't really quite get what he was trying to say, and I was just trying to like put all these pieces of the puzzle together, and none of that really made too much sense. Cat milk cheese, do they make that? Is that a weird thing? Is that legal? I don't know. So that was it. So I'm like, and he's saying, or is it chicken parmesan, which is delicious. If you haven't had it, go have some, or if you're a vegan, don't. Yeah, and then so people often think that roosters and hens cannot fly, but they can. They just can't fly very well. And often because of like all of like the stuff that we pump into, like chickens and geese and whatever, they can't really fly because they're so bloated and they're so fat, and they actually can't like carry that weight of them off the ground. So probably if we didn't feed them that much, they probably could fly better. But I mean, maybe not. I don't know. But they just can't fly for like long periods of time, but they can get off the ground, like they're not the best flyers. So boosters is like a pirate. They take and they get, and that way they get, and that way of thinking kind of gets people to the top. It doesn't make them great. It just makes them greedy, in my opinion. And then they fall asleep listening to Bach. And I like started putting on like classical music. I loved it. So again, like he's kind of like interested in different things in like different creative outlets. I mean, it's not that often that you hear rappers singing about classical musicians. So I thought that was interesting as well. It shows that he's like has a well-rounded musical history, which I think is great. Why not? And I looked into seeing like what his Bach's most popular song. I feel like I probably knew what it was once in my life, but I don't remember anymore. And it's very soft, and you could fall asleep to it. It's a very nice song if you want to go look it up. And I also kind of see and hear, obviously, Bach's kind of influence in some of his songs. Now that he's kind of like pointed that out, like he uses a lot of cello, particularly in like this one popular song. But so, and like there's a lot of cello in like some of his other songs. So I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. If he really likes Bach. So, yeah. So that I'm just saying, about that. And, a lot of people tend to fall asleep to classical music, so it is like a nice thing to kind of like drift away to and kind of relax. And it is nice if you're not listening to like da 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 or whatever. Don't listen to that. That's not going to help you fall asleep. But yeah, you can find some nice piano, some nice orchestra, whatever. Stop me if I'm rambling because this is going to take a long time. So the ribbon in the sky, I think, is a nod to Stevie Wonder. So I'm just, which is nice. Everyone enjoys Stevie Wonder. What's not to love? And I wasn't really sure about the last line, what he meant by that, dribbling the eye across like the prism of a clock. Wasn't really sure what that meant. Yeah, if you guys know, let me know. So that lacks meaning. Let's keep going. That lacks meaning, but racks up stacks of fat readings. They catch chief and wrapped up plans from trap dealings. Now what's a coffin with a scratched ceiling? And that's and what's the talking about the match feeling? That's buried living and cherry picking every lemon from your berry system. Then proceed with the pack feeding. Oh, and there's no like choruses or anything like that. It's just like one straight flow. It's pretty crazy. So I'm guessing like the words don't really mean anything, but they'll get you rich, but it won't be worth like reading like, like I'm doing now. Like, it's not worth it for me to read like maybe some other artists' songs because there's not a lot of meaning in them. Like, they just are what they are. And like, I've done a couple of them so far. And, I know you guys are always like, oh, this song doesn't need a breakdown or whatever, but like, I guess it's kind of pointing out and saying like, well, why? Why don't they like throw in a few things that we need to like delve deeper into? Isn't that like part of like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, so I feel like just that was my inner thoughts just coming out there. So Chief Reef is apparently who Lupe is throwing shade at here. And he's like a Chicago native, local guy. And they took away his weed plans, it sounds like. A scratch coffin is usually when someone is buried alive, like you're going to try to get out of the coffin, right? So, like, if you don't practice what you preach, then you might as well just be buried alive. He's kind of saying, like, if you're not even doing that, if you're not taking your own advice, then who's going to help you? Because you're heading for the ground anyways, and if you cherry pick and only take the good out of the whole, if you only just take the cherries out of like the fruit bowl, then like you're kind of just leaving like all the crap left, and you're not like mixing in with like the nice stuff. So if you take only the nice stuff in your life and you don't like deal with any of like the negative stuff, you're not going to be able to live life properly. Like there's gonna be some problems. Not everything is all hunky-dory, right? Yeah, so, yeah, and then, like, if you take the cherries out of, like, the fruit cup or whatever, then, it only leaves the crap for everyone else, and nobody wants that. Nobody just wants to eat just, like, the crappy stuff. The cherry is, like, the cherry on top. It's, like, the best part. Yeah. And the pack, is in there as well because Pac-Man eats cherries, if I'm not mistaken. And if you're running with the pack, again, you're part of the herd and you were not unique or original necessarily. You're just kind of like everybody else. So try to be unique and try not to be part of the pack. If you see everybody's doing the same thing as you, maybe think about that. Maybe being like, oh, why am I doing that? Like, maybe I'll be different from what everybody else is doing. I'll have my own opinions. I'll look into my own stuff or whatever. I mean, yeah, you do you. So let's keep going. When I was young, I had visions of another world, sneaking looks at the porn stash of my brother Hurl, incense, smoke made vortices and other curls, casting calls from the porn films and ad space for rubber girls. I like my pancakes cut in swirls, Moroccan moles and undercover squirrels. I like cartoons. Southern cities with large moons, faith healers, ex-female, drug dealers, and art booms. So when he was basically like a young lad, he got a glance into the world of kind of like adults and the world of sex and porn and all that because he was sneaking around his brother's room, we all do that, right? We all sneak, as kids, I feel like we sneak into like our sisters or our brothers' rooms and kind of like check out and see what's going on in there, especially if like that they've got some good stuff in there and you want to like see what it is, but you're too little maybe to like be able to see what it is. So yeah, so I guess that's kind of what he saw. And then the incense smoke swirls, and I guess like if you've ever lit incense, it makes all these like pretty kind of like swirls with the smoke and stuff like that. It's pretty neat to watch it actually, and it's very relaxing and soothing, and it makes your whole place smell nice. And I think it's often like used. I think when people have sex, like it's again a relaxing, soothing thing. So I'm guessing that there's maybe like incense for sex smells. I don't know what that smells like, but anyways, so so I guess he's just kind of commenting on the porn watching. I'm guessing that he had from his brother, and now that he's kind of been exposed to the whole thing, it's kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is what I want. So he talks about the fact that he likes his pancakes cut in swirls, which again makes me think of like a kid thing, when you cut your pancakes in like cute shapes, or you get your food cut in unique whatever by your parents, because they're just kind of like, you'll eat it this way. So yeah, it just kind of makes it fun. So it obviously goes to show that he's kind of talking more about like his youth at this point. Moroccan Mole and Undercover Squirrel are his favorite cartoons as a kid. And maybe he was writing this song in the South somewhere, and happened to look out his window when he's talking about the southern moons, I think, being large. And Christian healers, transitioned person up to no good, and art is booming. And I think that his music is art, which is definitely like true to say. And you often put on music on the boom blaster, like I don't think anybody uses that word anymore, but you know what I mean, like just like putting it out there and it's gonna like boom boom boom, like you're gonna feel it and hear it all at once. And I think that that's like kind of like a cool thing to be able to do, to have that like subwoofer or whatever you've got like going on. So like his music is literally booming. And his art is on the cover, so the art is booming as well, I think is basically what he's saying. And he's trying to get art out to the world, and especially maybe to those who maybe wouldn't have the chance necessarily, or just haven't been given any opportunities to see art, or like be involved in like the creation of too much art. I think that that's what he's trying to do in his words, and like what he's putting out. Like I said, it's his painting that he made. That's the cover of his album for this. So I think that's really cool. And again, a mural itself is a giant piece of art. It's usually on a wall, right? So that's another type of art to look at. Apologize for my weird mix. What tastes like hot dogs and tear drips, and looks like a pantomime and clear bricks, and smells like shotguns and deer piss. They on their hunt, kind of salty that I'm going hard. First part of a party that I throw in parts. 1 minute you're playing pool, next minute you're throwing darts. But that's how I like to do with a party that you throw in bars. I run the gambit like I'm throwing cards, from popular mechanics to overdosing hearts. So he's basically sorry if he's kind of like all over the place. He's going to be talking a lot about a lot of different things. So, I mean, that's just what it's going to be. If you don't like it, I guess he's just kind of like, well, this is what it's going to be. So unless you're having like, usually if you're having like a hot dog, you're doing, something probably enjoyable. You're at like a picnic or a baseball game or a barbecue, a kids party, whatever it is. Like you're usually doing something fun. It's usually in the summer, which is another thing to kind of pull into the summer mix. I think there's going to be a few things that kind of tie us to that as well. But you're crying, so you're kind of at this party, you're doing something, like I said, enjoyable, and you're crying, and that's kind of what he's trying to accomplish. You're trying to have that like mix of feelings. You're not really sure what's, you're doing something fun, but you're feeling all these emotions, and I think that's what he's trying to be able to do. Pantomime and clear bricks aren't really there, so it's all just sort of like mime, whatever. Someone on the hunt, he's kind of talking about, and like, as a country girl, I did grow up in the country. So I know that you buy deer urine and you can sprinkle that, I guess, like on the trees or like around wherever you are to like attract the deers to come. Um, yeah, so you can do that, and that makes it easier to kill the deer because they're like right there. They're gonna come. They're gonna smell that, and they're gonna be like, who's that guy? Or whatever deer think. Um, so yeah, some people are coming for him or coming after him, I guess. And they're doing what they can to get at him. Like they're sprinkling, they're trying to get the urine out there, right? Um, but he makes it difficult for them, and like the haters or the critics, or those that thought he'd never make it. But he works hard and like can't keep up with him. Like they can't even like stop him, so they can talk whatever they want. But haters gonna hate, but maker's gonna make. I guess he's just gonna keep on doing what he does. And then he throws in different parts in his rhymes to like kind of keep you interested in it. And I think for him to kind of show off a little bit as well. Kind of like when you're at a bar and you're like playing pool and then you're playing darts, and like his rhyme is like, he's still talking about his rhymes are like bars in a song. And so like you're at a bar playing darts and pool and whatever, but he's kind of like saying like, I got bars, I'm spitting bars, like he's got real rhymes. So like that's kind of like the difference as well. So he's really great at playing with words. Like this is clear, like even like right from the very beginning. So this is like a few other times. I found an interesting article about the use of gamut and gambit, which I'll link below for anybody who's interested in, words. So yeah, I'll link that below. If you could check out the difference between gamut and gambit and gamut. Because I was interesting. I had to go look that up for myself, and that's how I came across this article. So I thought that was pretty cool. But it basically means that he's taking over everything in multiple fields and multiple interests, because he's planning to like rise to the top, and he has like all these kind of like strategies for success. Like he's ready to like make it, and he's gonna make it big, and he's got a plan. Like he's not just going after it willy nilly. Like he's gonna go and like go. He probably has a spreadsheet of all his whole plan. But yeah, so that's cool. So I mean, he's killing it. He's got all these like wonderful skills, and he's gonna use that to he's gonna make moves, right? He's gonna do what he can to succeed. And then this, according to like some people on Genius, means that it's some kind of like sleight of hand in like playing or like cheating at cards. But I thought it meant that he's kind of more into like Popular Mechanics, the magazine, from what I remember. Like I don't know if that meant anything else. And maybe he was causing people's hearts to explode because they can't handle him because they love him so much. Like that's pretty cool. I guess. But fun fact, you actually can die of a broken heart. So, yeah, try not to do that. So paint cold pictures like Nova Scotia landscapes. Nerd Gang make the Mandelbrot sets when we handshake. A word game backup plan that can dam lakes. Back up the wordplay. Make playing at the man states means I can still be a man if the dam breaks. And when the demand breaks, I'm reflectious. What they can't face, my peers will still treat the mirror like it's a fan base. So, as a Canadian, and we experience similar type of weather as Nova Scotia, except that they're like right on the Atlantic Ocean. So it's probably cooler, and like when I think of like Nova Scotia in the winter, like I can only imagine like the cold like ocean, like waves like crashing on you, and just like it's snowy. But it's kind of pretty at the same time, but it's cold. It's very, very cold. So yeah, I mean that's what I imagine. As a Canadian who kind of knows the temperatures, I guess. I've only been there in the summer. It's very lovely. So nerd gangs with because the Mandelbrot is some crazy, like, weird math science thing that I can't properly explain. But it's it's something to do with like a complicated handshake, I guess. So his rhymes are nonstop because they're like a flow of water caused by a dam that backs up the water flow. I mean, that's what it does. Some more about his wordplay, and even if the dam breaks, I broke the dam. If anybody knows the I broke the dam quote, you're my bestie. It's from South Park if you don't. Yeah, so I mean, that was an old reference. But he's gonna do everything he can to control that. He's gonna kind of push back, and he's gonna try not to like let like the dam break. You know, we're just gonna let everything like come out. And he's a reflection of the society that made him. He's reflected. Yeah, I think he's kind of talking about like people reflecting in the mirrors, but they're also not reflecting in their minds. He's talking about the fans, you know, and obviously like you're your biggest fan, I guess, right? Like, you know, you're the one that's reflecting back. And I think that's kind of what he's saying too. It's, you know, you have to make music for everybody, not just for yourself, I guess. I don't know if that's true or not. So yeah, and I think that he's kind of like reflecting that the haters and the critics and like the rap battles and like all this kind of stuff, they can't face the truth, which I think is also telling. And criticizing like how the fame gets to people's heads, and like, you know, they can't see the real stuff because they can only see themselves, and they're so absorbed with like themselves a lot of the time. Like famous people, especially like new famous people, I guess, you know, like they don't really know how to handle themselves, which is, you know, totally fine. I don't think anybody's prepared to do that, but I think that realization of like the whole world looking at you makes yourself look at yourself differently. So yeah. The unfettered veteran, the eagle-feathered man of medicine that hovers above cities like Weathermen and maybe Weatherwomen. Whatever better to tell you weather coming. I prefer girls to rain all over the world and not rain like Rain Man or rain like Rain Dance or rain like a slight chance of rain when it's raining. So he's been around. I love his rhymes. They are pretty great. I just have to say that. So he's been around a while and is free to kind of rap about whatever he wants, and he's going to do that whether he likes, you know, whether you guys like it or not. He's the healer, and again, we have some like Native American like imagery, and these stories above the cities. And I'm thinking maybe because he's traveling by plane, like he's kind of looking above, seeing what's going on, or by helicopter maybe, I don't know. Probably not by a balloon, but you never know. And weathermen and women, weather women, telling you whether or not he's coming. So I thought that was again like an interesting play on words, like a not like the temperature weather, but like whether or not. So yeah, great. He's so great with his words. And then the girl is raining all over the world. So we kind of have like the imagery of like raining men, you know, like raining women, like, so there's women all over the world, but also raining, like how a queen reigns over her land and over her people. So I thought that was interesting, like, you know, girls reigning everywhere. Everybody's being, or all the ladies are being like the queens. And I thought that, you know, like I said, I like that. And not rain in like the different senses of the word. And then we have like Rain Man, which is a movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. And like Rain Dance, which is another a Native American tie-in there, where you know, if it's been a very dry season, and you know, the natives would often, or I'm sure still do, dance for rain, and it's a rain dance. I think it's really pretty cool. And yeah, and so it's not really like the weather at all. That's what he's trying to say, I think. So, and then we keep going. Or rain like dear slaves to Santa Claus sleigh man, but rain like queens that reign over made man. And not queen like queen killer, rhapsody bohemian queen, but queen like white glove wave hand, and not wave hand like it's a heat wave. So you make a fan by waving your hand. I'm talking wave like you saying, hey man. I'm sorry. Sorry for messing up. So, okay, so, and not like the reins of like reindeer, or like the reins maybe like, that like control the reindeer. So it's not like that. And, now he's finally saying it's rain like the queen. And then he kind of goes off onto like a whole other tangent about waving and queen. A woman, so yeah, it's basically, like I said, a woman that just rules over men. And not like Killer Queen, which is a Queen song, and Queen like the band, like the Freddie Mercury Queen, like they're coming out with a new biopic about him. But like you treat someone like a queen, and they have people who serve them with white gloves on so that they don't like leave a mark on your plate or whatever. And then we kind of go into the whole waving thing, and not like a wave of your hand, like it's a heat wave. So again, another summertime reference. And you cool off by like waving your hand to try to make a fan. But I don't really think, I feel like that just takes more effort than you're getting like the wind from. Like you're not really doing much. I think you're just tiring yourself out. And yeah, again, he's just playing with like the use of the English language here, and I thought that was pretty cool. So, and not hay for horses. And horse is like you, almost voiceless. You got to treat your vocal cords like it's a fortress, and you treat every single one of your words like reinforcements, and especially when you're recording, like now, because that's the portion that's important. When I was reporting that I was poor, but now I'm more than poor. So, and hayman, so it's obviously not like, hay's for horses, and not the hay that like the farmers grow for your horses, but horse like when you lose your voice and you become hoarse. So he's like, take care of your voice. Like it's really important. Like your words are like reinforce your power, and who you are, and what you say becomes who you are. So it's very important to use your words wisely. And then record it so the way he's recording it in like a studio when he's writing, putting out this song. Like it's most important when you to enunciate and like get everything out properly. I know I don't always do that. I try, but so yeah, I think that's what he's saying. And he's also kind of like reporting, because you're recording it and you're kind of reporting on like the world like he's doing, and he's reporting on like what he knows and what he sees in his life, and like his criticisms of like maybe like people and in like the situations around him. So now he's like more than what he once was. He's not poor anymore. Okay, so it's still hooker heels on my sugar hills and sweet spots, crying shames make margarita rims from cheap tops, deep plots in floor to ceiling windows for my peep pots, a little scene with the sickle swings to make the wheat drop, and 100 words for the hummingbirds that like to eavesdrop and fan out like peacocks with a parakeet that beatbox. So the sunrise when the beat drops, and the sun dies when the beat stops. Then it unties, then it relocks, then it relapses, then it detox, then heat back like a heat pack on his kneecaps of the weak spot, 'cause he want what we got. Like, yeah. I almost did that one 100% perfectly. Almost. Yeah, I mean, he's very lyrical, as you can see. So still, he still sees the life of like hookers on the streets and the gang life. So he's still involved kind of like in, I guess, like maybe like or he's still maybe living in like areas that are like prone to this kind of stuff. So he kind of thinks it's a bit of a shame that people are doing this, I guess. And then when I think of margarita rims, I think of salt, and maybe like white salt is like a reference to like cocaine on a glass. Like I was thinking like a mirror. Like I don't know, maybe that was just me like overthinking all of this. Maybe I'm just so used to like drug references and stuff in rap songs, I guess. So deep plots for his floor to ceiling windows, which is obviously like usually if you have like those kind of windows, like you have a nice home, you have maybe a little bit of money to like, have this kind of little bit of luxury to have like a giant window, and and it just, you can see in, you can see out, it's a whole thing. So yeah, so I think that's, like I said, rich. So and images of old school like farming. So I think like a sickle is like what they would use to cut the hay, not cut the hay, but cut the wheat. Maybe they used it for hay as well. I don't really know. So 100 words for the hummingbirds. So I mean, I guess because they're really really fast and really really quick, and maybe they're like the people that listen in, and they're just listen for like quickly. They only listen for like a little bit, and then they. If you've ever watched like a hummingbird, they're very very quick, and like they'll come in and have some like whatever sweet sugar that you're giving them, and then they're gone. Like they're just gone, and you never see them leave. And I don't know, they're pretty cool little birds. So I think that that's also kind of what he's saying, that like people are quickly listening in, kind of getting like the little like buzz of like what's going on in his life, and then they're going to like report it and tell people like what's going on in his world, and to like kind of let other people know what he's up to. So and fan out, again with the summer references, with the fan, and also because a peacock fans its feathers to attract ladies, and playing that drops and playing big games, but then it sounds like a tiny little bird squeaking raps, like it's just like, I don't know, I thought that was kind of funny. And then the beat drops and dies. So when the music is over, like that's it. And I think that's true for both the artist and the listener. Like like you have 8 minutes and whatever 49 seconds to like get everything right and not fuck up, and like it has to be perfect and da 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 da. But then like so like from like the artist's point of view, like okay, this is what I have, this is what I have to work with, this is what I have to accomplish. And then when the person who's listening to his songs, or whoever is listening to anybody's songs, once the music stops, you often carry on with your life, you do whatever you do. But like I think that he's trying to like give you something to actually take away, and it's going to hold something that's going to like hold on to you, and like make you think and make you feel different things. And I think that's what he's just trying to accomplish with, especially with such like a long and lyrically dense song. I think he's just giving you so much to think about here, that you're just kind of overwhelmed by everything. So yeah, so it's kind of like a high a little bit. It's kind of an instant hit, and then it fades off, and you need it more than, and you need it more and more. And I think it's again the same thing for both the artist and the fan as well. The heat is back, summer reference again. And the heat he's bringing this time is his rhymes. Like he's got hot rhymes, and it's a heat pack on your knee, usually because you have sore muscles, and maybe because he has a weak spot. Like, I don't know if he's saying somebody else has weak spots, but I think I hope he's also saying like, oh, I've got a weak spot. I don't really think Lupe has that many weak spots. Like he's pretty good at what he does. Or he's pretty good at everything he does, I think. And I think that's why everybody wants to be like him, basically. So let's keep going. So then forge poetry like a young ornery Morrissey, then spit it to the golden locks thoughts, who like their porridge all watery, not scorching, not sorbet-y. From the steel orbiting sorcery, coming down gorgeously like a Stacey dash waterfall, a more torturing, a waterboarding Barbie doll, a river of women like a Brazilian carnival, swimming in feminine bikinis made out of barbasol. Somebody give them volleyballs. If you love her, don't ever send her to Molly Malls. So Morrissey is like the lead singer of the Smiths, and like his music is basically poetry. And like he's kind of comparing himself to Morrissey a little bit. Like he's kind of saying like, we both kind of do the same sort of poetry based music. Not that I'm saying that everybody else doesn't do poetry based lyrics. But I think his are particularly like, obviously dense. He's going to spit his lyrics into the thoughts, that hoe over there. that are blonde and may not pay attention to anything else. Obviously, blondes are usually white people. So kind of criticizes Goldilocks' choice of porridge. It's almost like a magical and witchy a little bit when you think about the power that we figured out to like have like these satellites spinning around the Earth, and like I don't know, it just seems pretty crazy. And they just float around the Earth all day, and that's just what they do. They don't come crashing down, and they fall nicely, just like Stacey Dash. And my favorite like reference of her is obviously like Clueless from, she plays Dion in Clueless, so she's Cher's best friend, which I grew up watching over and over and over again. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure she's done other things, but for me, like that's where like that's like the pinnacle of her career, I think, a little bit, which is fine. I'm sure she made a lot of money. I'm sure she still makes a lot of money off of it. So basically, a waterfall of Stacey's, and like she's a lovely looking lady, so why not? So Lupe compares to kind of how water can be used evilly. Like it's not always like, water is great. It's good for you. Drink a lot of it. Go drink a glass right now. But I've got my little water here. But I think he's talking about like the way that you can actually, water gives you life and it can take away life at the exact same thing. So it can be used negatively as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So also saying that, maybe she's as cute as a Barbie doll. He thinks like maybe Lupe has a bit of a crush on Stacey. So he's dreaming of a river of women flowing at him. And that he wants them to play like volleyball in bikinis, which is basically every guy's dream. If you go to the beach and like you see all these girls, these cute young girls all playing like volleyball in their bikinis and jumping around and like diving into the sand, and I don't know, guys love that stuff, right? Um, why not? And Molly Mall was involved in human trafficking, so that makes sense. Don't go over to his house. That doesn't. He's kind of like don't hang out with him. Like he's bad news. Yeah, don't get human trafficked, guys. And if you are, leave me a message down below, and I'll come save you, or I'll do what I can, or I'll send Liam Neeson. Either way. So homie, if she's lonely, she might end up in Macaulay's claws. Coming out of the closet over goblets down at Mardi Gras. The famed Champagne Walk of Shame lobby call. My rap position was black condition and activism, ammunition for abolition, missions attacking systems, but they're not apt to listen unless it's dropping on Activision. Are we apps or are we bodies filled with apparitions, operating applications stuck inside an Apple prison? Chicken hack and download updates that lack religion, or are we more? Whew. It's hard for me, guys. So this line is clearly in relation to probably one of my personal favorite Christmas movies, Home Alone with Macaulay Culkin. And like if you ever end up home alone, you could end up, especially as a kid, you're gonna end up probably causing some trouble unless you're like a perfect child. But I feel like every kid gets up to some trouble, especially if they're left at home like the first time ever. They're like, "Ooh, what are we gonna do?" So yeah. Anyways, so coming out of the closet over large drinks makes sense. Mardi Gras is a very sexual time. Makes sense. So you kind of get the fame, the expensive stuff, and then the criticism of people's behaviors. Lupe is not really about that life, though. He just wants to speak about like the kind of the plight of black people and get some attention and like to the movements and like the the issues that he's trying to like get support on. So guns were used in the abolition movement when black people were standing up. And white people were standing, all people, I think, that were sane, were standing up and saying, like, hey, like, maybe let's not have these slaves. Like, these are people, too. Like, come on. So, obviously, that was that. Attacking the system that creates this hate and behavior, which is fair. We should all attack everybody that, creates hate. It's not nice. So nobody will listen unless you've got like some sweet ass, dope, whatever songs, and and throw in some like activism thoughts. So that's kind of like what he's saying. Like, he's like, I'll make all these great songs, but I'll throw in some like interesting things to like get people to think and get people hopefully to act. And I think that's the most important thing. So as a society, he's questioning whether we're real people or are we just like ghosts of our former selves and like ghosts basically on like social media. Like, it's really weird. And it also kind of made me think about like people in my own social media who have passed away, and like they're still on my social media, and I'm like, ugh, what do I do with this now? Like, what do you do when someone dies? I think that they now have like a way to like deactivate the account or whatever, like if someone has passed away, on Facebook or whatever. But yeah, anyways, that just seems kind of crazy. But basically, like, we are just projecting like what we want to show the rest of society. Like, we're only showing like the perfect parts, like, but we're not showing like the shitty parts of ourselves and like of our lives. So it's hard, like, when when you're looking at social media, to like get like a realistic view of people, because you're only getting the good stuff, right? Like the cherry on top, you're picking the cherry. You need some of the bad. You got to put some crap out there so that we know that you're real. Do it. Go put some crap picture out there. Um, so yeah, people are just basically just addicted to their phones, and specifically iPhones. I think is what he's kind of pointing at too. Is that Apple is like making people become basically prisoners to them, yeah, we're just imprisoning ourselves. So kids are expert hackers now because they're just like playing on like all of these electronics all the time. But we have no morals or religious views to be like good or bad, and people are just so absorbed in their phones or their social media or whatever, and they're not necessarily paying attention to what's right and wrong. They're just doing what's like gonna get clicks, and that's it. And like, we have seen. I'll throw in a Paul. He's done some, a few things that are not necessarily great. Those Paul boys. So let's keep going. Then soil tainting, disloyal changelings, preoccupied with the boy and goyle, chasing and foiling others' royal saintings. I sit back and watch the world through eye holes in my oil paintings. Ugh, ain't nothing to it but to do it. Unless you Virgin Mary, nothing to it but the truest. Believe all that unless you Jewish. Life is not a dictionary, it's a thesaurus, and I feel like a missionary to a clitoris, the Waterbearer, heir of traditions that I swear to never change, my chair position or conditions of my porridge, submission for sedition against the religion of a chorus, keep them golden weave thieves out of the motherfucking forest. So, are we more than just something that changes the consistency of the earth? Like, I think that he means this, like, either when we die, like, are we good for anything other than just feeding the earth, and giving our bodies back to the earth and, dust to dust, ash to ashes or whatever. So, yeah, he's just kind of saying, like, are we doing something that's good for the earth, or are we only just kind of just being bad? Like, how have we changed the earth, really? And then the word changeling makes me think of, like, automatically right away the Angelina Jolie movie that came out like a few years ago. I want to say like at least 10 years ago. And it was kind of like a swapped child. And I think it was kind of to do with, like, not necessarily a disloyal child, but like someone is presented as something that they're not, I think, is a changeling. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the definition of it, but that's what I think it is. And then he says goyle, like girl, or he means it like girl, but it just comes out like goyle, like he's just like trying to sound, I guess, kind of like Christopher Walken. That was who I think of. Hey, goyle. I like the sounds of these lines. It makes me think of like fancy old religious paintings with like the gold foil in them, and they used to, like, to help make them like kind of shiny a little bit. But in the paintings, like he's kind of poked out the eyes and he's kind of seeing the perspective of the art, which is kind of a pretty fascinating idea. And I don't know if this is accurate, but this is my interpretation. Again, this is just me. I think it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, not that I'm saying that you should do that, but I think that it's a pretty cool thing to imagine yourself as part of the art, as one with the art, and seeing how people look at you as the art. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's pretty cool, and I think that that's like another thing that we're doing with his music. You know, we're looking at his stuff. So he's telling us that you have to start, and that's kind of, you know, the answer to your success. Like if you don't start doing something, then you're never gonna do it. You know, he's just saying just do it. You know, kind of like Nike. So unless you're like a good woman like the Virgin Mary and probably don't have, you know, too many crazy stories because, you know, you've been a good girl and you stayed out of trouble, but you probably don't. So those stories are kind of part of like who you are, and they tell us who you are. And I like all the religious like wordplay. He knows, you know, he kind of talks about like being Jewish, like, you know, you're not going to believe in necessarily the Virgin Mary if you're Jewish. So he knows different religions, and I think that he kind of has like different perspectives, and he kind of makes lyrics about, you know, different types of religions, and I think that that's pretty interesting and pretty cool, and I very like open of him to like expose himself and like talk about all these things, which I, you know, some people I think kind of get caught up in one particular religion and they're just like, oh no to everything else, but I mean, like, we're all just trying to survive here. What was I gonna say? So he know, and he knows there's no set word for it. You know, he's kind of, there's a variety of words. That's why you would need to use the thesaurus. And his mission is to use the clitoris, is to find the clitoris, which makes me think of the South Park movie. So that's again like another old school reference to like the South Park movie, or something related to South Park. And a missionary is another thing that religious people do. They go on missions, right? And a Waterbearer is he's like, Lupe is an Aquarius, and that's what he's talking about there. He's talking about, because if you ever look at the imagery of or the images of an Aquarius, they are the water bearers. So, you know, age of Aquarius, yeah. So he is carrying on the traditions, and he makes a promise not to change. Chair and porridge, so he kind of goes back to Goldilocks, and Lupe is like, he's not like that. He talks about the conditions, which I feel like he's kind of talking about the conditions in a contract or something like that. So like maybe he wasn't presented, or like he wasn't happy with like maybe a contract that was coming up. I'm guessing maybe something to do with his music. So yeah, and how like nobody's ever like happy or satisfied with those conditions, right? Like, you know, nobody's ever gonna get a perfect contract, I guess. You know, which is true. So it's necessary to have a chorus, it seems, but he's like, nope, not putting one. Like, he's just gonna do what he wants, and you know, he's an individual. He's gonna make his own choices. He doesn't go with the flow, right? He kind of, you know, or with like the herd, what everybody else does. He does his own thing. So he, you know, he's kind of saying, keep the golden weave. It makes me think that Goldilocks is maybe like a fake, like she's not necessarily a real blonde, like, you know, maybe she has some fake hair, she's got fake weave or whatever. And I think that he's also kind of saying that he kind of wants to keep like white people out of like the rap, or, you know, music culture, you know, like because that's, you know, reserved for the black people, and like, you know, they're like, well, this is ours, like, you know, like, keep you guys out of it, and like, I mean, you that's your choice, right? But I really doubt that he would like me talking about his song if that's the case. And I'm sorry if you don't like it, Lupe. I don't know if he's ever gonna see this. But yeah, I'll tweet it at him. So, as I perform a nerve storm, I prefer my pictures in word form. Bury the hatchet like how a bird born. As I paint cold pictures like KoolAid facing condensation. having conversations with flavorful combinations, slave to my concentration, so that OJ, the juice man, meets OJ with two hands and two gloves. That's too snug to judge who was who drew blood. So, his whole body is involved in his art, basically. Pictures in word form, and this is his art, but it comes in words instead of on a canvas. It comes presented differently, but it's all art in the end. And to bury the hatchet is usually like to forgive someone. And I think that he's talking about the founding of the United States of America. Okay, the colonizers buried maybe the history of the native people that have created, and then they created the land and claimed that it was theirs. So I think that that's kind of something that he's talking about. And then that they use like this big bird that he mentions to like represent themselves. And I think that that's maybe the eagle, like a bald eagle, like it's a pretty big bird. Just saying. So I think he's kind of saying like, come on guys, like everybody takes from everybody, and nobody's like the originator, I guess. But nobody like gives like any props to like the originator, I guess. So I think that he's just kind of like talking about that. He paints kind of cold pictures of using certain colors. He talks about using maybe like certain, or he doesn't talk about it. Like I'm just assuming that maybe he uses like certain shades on like the color wheel, like the cool toned colors, like blue and like I think white is a cool color, and like those kinds of colors. Like red is obviously like a hot color, so it just makes sense. So he's painting something, you can feel the coldness in it, and then he's kind of like using like the Americana images here to convey his message. He uses KoolAid and like the KoolAid like smile that's on like the container or the jug, whatever. And then having wild discussions, compares it to the different flavors of KoolAid that can maybe be mixed together to have different tastes and different flavors, which is, they're all going to be different. He's a slave to his concentration, which is usually like a subject that maybe someone focuses on in school. But it can also mean like juice from concentrate, which I think KoolAid is. Is it from? Yeah, is it? I don't know if it's from concentrate or not. But yeah, I mean, I think that's another juice reference at the very least. And then we have another one because he talks about OJ, which is orange juice. And we all know who OJ Simpson is. So he's kind of talking about the two hands, which are like made famous of like him like being like, oh, nope, wasn't me. Wearing those darn gloves. And because of those gloves, he got away with murder. And that's kind of what Lupe is talking about here. And Lupe looks at all these toucans in a cemetery full of tomahawks, giving middle fingers to the pigeons doing somersaults. Road runners don't fall off cliffs, they run across. Anomalies by the colony, flukes by the reservoir, wildland pursuers end up as poofs on the desert floor, levitating youths. You know the truth of where the fountain hides, buckaroo roof, painting tunnels onto the mountainsides, 1,000 parts, a pound of heart, an ounce of eyes, announcing now the doubt in mouth, pronouncing a count of lies. Chocula counts by the count of 5. So, toucans, right away. I mean, like, I feel like the most famous toucan is from Fruit Loops, Toucan Sam. And it's just kind of like this big, loud, bright bird that's, I think he's kind of comparing that bird to the Americans. And I think that's, sorry. Sorry if you're a loudmouth. In a cemetery of tomahawks, and a hawk is obviously another type of bird. And a tomahawk is sort of like a tool that was created or used, or both, by the Native Americans. Again, so we have another reference back to that. So he's very much like aware of like where he's from and whose land it is that he's on, and that he's occupying. I think that that's kind of an interesting thing, and we should all be more appreciative of that. Well, I guess all the North Americans, Australians, any place that was conquered. So I think that, Native people obviously use the tomahawk, which is basically like a sort of like a hatchet or an axe. It's feel like it's like somewhere in like that family of tools. If you aren't already aware what it is. So the toucans are kind of giving the middle fingers to the pigeons. And then it made me think of like people are always trying to get like rid of the pigeons because they're like dirty and they're like a nuisance and they're just like they're unclean, like, and I used to start seeing like all these like spikes on like everything and like so that they're trying to prevent like any pigeons from showing up or like landing there like on signs or buildings or whatever. They were just putting all these spikes up, and that kind of made me think of, because there were spikes that were put up to prevent homeless people from like sleeping in like certain areas of town. I don't know if this has happened in like anywhere where you are, if they're trying to do like different things like that, but I mean that was like taken away. Like I think it was pretty, people were pretty pissed off about that. That there were spikes put up to try to keep like homeless people out. Yeah, so I think that he's kind of saying like pigeons are basically like poor people, right? The dirty nuisances, and you just want to get rid of them and move them somewhere else, and that's kind of what kind of what people are doing nowadays, right? Road runners. So again, they're another type of bird, and they're smart ones, and they don't fail; they only succeed. I'm not really sure about the next line, but just that Lupe is an anomaly, which I used to call my sister. Her name is Emily, yeah, she'd get very upset, and I never really understood why. I didn't really know what the word meant, and I guess she probably didn't either, or maybe she did. I don't know. Maybe she just doesn't want to be an anomaly. So he's got a lot more of these killer rhymes. If you wander around and try to do something different, you may end up with like a poof. And I think that like a poof for me, like when I think of it, is like a chair pillow kind of thing. But apparently it's in reference to Wile E. Coyote. I guess like the coyote and the roadrunner makes sense. Looney Tunes. So if you go back to that kind of like roadrunner idea, he's kind of like poof, like sometimes it literally says poof when he's like disappeared, or he's been crushed to the desert floor, which makes more sense. And the next line is in reference to the fountain of youth, which makes you young. Everybody just wants to like seek that. Sometimes you like see like these crazy movies where people are trying to get like the fountain of youth or whatever they're trying to do. And you just can't. You just can't. You're just going to have to accept getting old. We're all just going to get old and wrinkly, and we're all going to deal with that together. So you get to watch my face get old and wrinkly in front of your eyes. So yeah, enjoy that. And then the enlightened kids that float. Like I didn't really know what that was about. Like I didn't know if that had any reference to something. I just thought that was interesting. Again, that kind of ties back to like some of like the Buddhist stuff that he's kind of talked about, or like the, like where you kind of meditate, which we'll see later on as well. And then there's kind of like cowboy type drawings on like mountains, and I'm guessing caves and whatever on rocks. So humans are made up of 1,000 pieces. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know how many pieces there are in a human body. Like if you count everything, like the skin, the eyeballs, like the fingernails, your kidney, like, I don't know if you add everything up, if it's 1,000. It seems like a bit much, but maybe not. And describes like the weight of like the heart and the eyes. And he doubts himself. And he like, he's kind of lying. And then he references Count Chocula, which is another like cereal, like Fruit Loops was. So there's so many things that are just like tied in to everything. And it's kind of like a kiddish, like a youth scene. Obviously, we're talking about the Fountain of Youth and like childhood stuff and cereal. I feel like, these are all like cereal that is made like particularly for children. And then the count of 5, which makes me think of the Count from Sesame Street. So like there's a whole bunch in there. And then like I'm pretty sure Lupe is from like Brooklyn or like around there. And like isn't Sesame Street supposed to be like filmed in Brooklyn, or it's like set in Brooklyn or something? It's like, I'm pretty sure it's like, I know it's New York. I'm pretty sure it's Brooklyn. So yeah. I'm sure it's a set somewhere. I don't even know, but I think it's supposed to be in Brooklyn. Let's keep going. Refrigerator roof full of animals and monsters. Incinerator chutes and the manual for Contra. Assorted memories from my childhood. Absorbing energy from the wild woods. Electronic combat. Konami signed contract. Chinese chalk killing cucarachas on contact. Chicago spray gun aficionado. Efficient spitting bridging divisions isn't Chicano. Who's the boss if it isn't Alyssa Milano? Dudikoff ninja mission into the Congo. So the top of the fridge is always where you can kind of find like random stuff ends up collecting there, and stuff that you'll never see again, and toys and food and whatever you put up there. Just you're never going to see it again. Dust is just going to like sweep it away and it's gone. Or at least for me, because I'm very short and I can't see the top of the fridge. Yeah, so I mean, and probably some toys are put up there, or like, maybe like monsters are up there or whatever. So like I had to look up what Contra was. And I guess it was like some old school like video game, I think it's from like the 80s. And the shoot word play, I thought that was pretty interesting, like a shooting ladders, and then shoot someone, you're gonna do that. So again, I thought that was good wordplay. All these memories fall on him, and it made me think of like laundry, like coming down like the laundry chute. So I thought that was kind of like interesting memory, because I mean, if you've ever been under like a laundry chute, when the laundry is coming, you're just gonna end up with it all on your face. I guess, which could be fun if you're a kid. I'm sure it was at one time or another. So nature's energy is kind of feeding our souls, and just like, what he's saying, and just, if you have the chance, go outside, go for a quick walk, go find some nature. It'll replenish your soul. It'll make you feel good. Plus it'll give you some, you'll get some energy up. You'll lose some calories. It's a great thing all together. Go out and absorb the sun's vitamins. Do whatever you need to do. Take that summer in, especially if you're in like the northern part of the world where, summer only lasts for a little bit. So you try to get that sun in. So Konami is the name of the company that made Contra for Nintendo. So I did not know that there was something called chalk that got rid of cockroaches. So I think that's usually like, I think I think you get cockroaches if you're in like maybe like humid places. I feel like they can live everywhere and anywhere, but I think that it's like more if it's like a humid place, or if it is dirty. I think if it's dirty, they'll be there. They'll show up. So a lot of gun violence has happened in Chicago, and sadly, it's kind of famous for being gun violent in Chicago. Like if you've just ever seen the movie Chicago, it's literally about gun violence. So I guess that's why I think it's famous for that. I mean, I don't really know anymore, but I would like to visit Chicago one day. And I'm too bad I missed the Marilyn Monroe statue thingy, but I'll still go see the Bean. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like I said, all these, terrible things that happen in Chicago make great entertaining stories and movies and TV shows and books and everything. So his lyrics are bridging kind of like the gap for different people to kind of like meet in the middle or come together or find like a way to understand each other, which is great. I think, that's what we're all trying to do here. We're all just trying to get along. And Chicano is apparently some term for like an American Mexican, but I think slightly in an insulting way. So I'm sorry if I said that and I shouldn't have. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I'm guessing. I feel like if Lupe said it, I can say it. It can't be that bad, right? I don't know. So, and then Alyssa Milano, who's the boss in the 80s. Again, that was, another reference to like his childhood, his 80s, 80 babies, whoop whoop. And Dudikoff is apparently in reference to some actor named Michael Dudikoff. Makes me think of Duddy Kravitz, who is a character in one of like was it Leonard? Oh, Oh yeah, and so Denny Kravitz is written by Mordecai Richler, who is a Canadian author. Um, so that, I mean, that's what I thought of initially when I heard that name, but I know it's not, but it just made me think of that. And then he goes off to the Congo, which apparently, which is in Africa. Yeah, I don't really know too much more about that. So let's keep going. So polarized envy of the other guys. Black Obi Shinobi hitting Keno in the face with all my throwing knives. Sub-Zero guiding, hiding, riding in the pack as well. Sound Village, Leaf Village, Wolf Spirit, magic spells, dodging rain and catching hail. Faces need samurais to catch the L. Special research vessels made for catching whales, filet o fish ships, sea shepherded, peppered with extra sails. So the first couple of lines here are in reference to, very out of my realm. Going to say like a bunch of nerdy guy stuff. So I'm just going to leave it at that. You guys probably all know what it means, and I don't. So even though I'm giving this breakdown about what the song means. But I think it just sounds like something. I feel like I've seen Holden play something like this. It's a video game. There's, spells and stuff that happen. If it doesn't have Harry Potter, I don't really know. Not that good. So it talks about the weather, about samurais falling. I don't really know what a sub made to explore Wales is, but I think that's pretty cool if that was actually made. And a few, like in this little chunk, there's a few different oceanic references, and I believe the Sea Shepherd. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know you will. I'm pretty sure the Sea Shepherd is the name of the ship in Gilligan's Island. There we go. I'm pretty sure it was the Sea Shepherd. I think that's the name of the ship in that. So I think that was like another reference. Maybe he watched Gilligan's Island growing up or something. It's a good show to like rewatch, I guess. Rewrite history. Liberty needs a better bell. Maybe harder irons and carbon fibers that never fail. Smarter science mixed with odd alliance, a fairy tale. Or maybe just a metal pail you hit with your steel tools to announce that you've had enough and dropping out of SEAL school, just like a trout jumping out of their house to let their gills cool. Cuba Scuba couldn't take the temperature of my skill pool. Yeah, I said it feels cool to kill fools. Slipping through the cracks like when you try to grill gruel. Techno, Viking, water bottle, and not following pill rules. All right, so getting closer to the end, guys. So rewrite history and improve on things. I'm guessing, make the Liberty Bell bigger and better and stronger, so there's no crack in it, right? Better equipment to build, and better materials to build America on. It also made me think of like a jail, like maybe like I don't know if that's true or not, but like the I guess like the protection in jail. It made me think of like handcuffs or like the bars, and then like maybe like I don't know what cotton fibers are. Fiber optics. I don't know. But yeah, that's what they are, and So there's a weird mix of like what's kind of being taught as like fundamental. Are we from science or are we from like fairy tales, like like which I think can be construed as the Bible. So it's like nobody knows for sure whether our history, where humans came from, how we started, how the Earth started. We don't have that. There's no written history of that. But we have tales, and we have theories, and we have hypotheses. And we have what God has told us, and so there's all these different stories, and trying to find like what the right one is very difficult and will probably never be solved. And also because we tend to forget our history, I'm not surprised we don't know how it started. whether it was written or not. But I'm guessing we just don't know what it is. Um, so the metal pail line makes me think of a milk bucket. I'm a country girl, so that makes me think of like a milk bucket when I think of like a metal pail. But I'm not sure that that's what he means. It definitely sounds like some sort of like a hands-on job. Anyways, or like something that you're going to be in there working. It also makes me think of kicking the bucket, which usually means that you're dead. And maybe he doesn't want to go towards the army, which is, which could kill him and which could end up him kicking the bucket, right? Nobody wants that. It was just funny to hear him say, like, drop out of SEAL school, which makes me think of, like, a school for SEALs, like a like kind of like SEAL, not like a, I don't know what a sound a Navy SEAL makes, but this is what he does apparently. Deet, 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 deet. I don't think they do that at all. I think I'm just thinking of like Gene Kelly and like Fred Astaire and stuff like that when they played sailors. Wow, my images of the army is not good. Or it's just, anyways, entertaining. Okay, and then the trout jumping. I used to go fishing. I used to catch trout. And because like trout swim, it seems like it's jumping. They're jumping, I guess. And they're going like upstream against the current, and they're gonna go like have their babies and whatever. I'll leave a link of it down below of them like kind of jumping up and swimming up against the current. So if you've never ever seen that in your life, there will be a clip down here, but you can just, I think it's like a 40-second clip of like fish swimming upstream. It's not that exciting, but it's cool if you've never seen it. I mean, it's cool anyways. Go watch it. It's 40 seconds. That's basically what they look like. They look like they're like jumping, but they obviously don't have feet, so it's just pretty cool. And I think the salmon do that as well. And Cuba Gooding Jr., I think is kind of like a reference here in part of like a movie that he played of him going to be in the Navy, I believe. I'm not really sure. Lupe feels that the act of killing someone makes you feel cold inside. But it also seems like a cool thing to do to like kind of prove yourself to like maybe like your pals or like your gang or whoever like is, causing you to do this. But that would be wrong. Very, very, very wrong. Don't kill people. Like, you'll feel bad. You may feel good for like a second, but you're going to feel bad afterwards. And these people and cases are kind of like slipping through the cracks and aren't getting the attention that they need, obviously. And then the next line, this apparently has something to do with some sort of viral video I've never seen, of a guy that looks like a Viking, drinking from a water bottle at like a street rave and like dancing to techno music. And then maybe like there's something in the water, that like encourages him to like dance really fiercely. I mean, I went and looked up this clip. It was weird. I don't know if it was viral. I suppose I should have looked at the number, but of views and whatever, how many people have watched it. But I mean, it's a pretty random thing, pretty damn obscure, I guess. But interesting, I guess, either way. And I think the pill line is obviously in reference to like people taking their medications incorrectly and not following the instructions that is on the bottle, and like, people often take it with water, and they'll, water bottle. So, I mean, the whole thing makes sense. Just the whole Viking guy. He's something. We'll have you off the throttle when you should be modeling chill mood, roller skate maker, or are you just cobbling wheel shoes? Overweight taster of kings, food that kills crews, oblivious featherweight baker who autographed cakes whenever his quill moves over your milieu, simple as a Buddhist monk in a temple standing in some heel groove with the abbot, practicing stillness, real still till he realizes realness, defeat samsara, achieve nirvana and brilliance, Yeah. So taking crazy pills, especially wrong, will leave you feeling weird and maybe unlike yourself. And instead of like impressing people, like you're just gonna like, you're not. You're gonna be like all messed up, and you should be like having like this chill mood, and yeah, just doing that. And then cobbling, a cobbler is like an old name for a shoemaker, if you didn't know. Um, so in this case, he's talking about someone that makes roller skates and like versus like wheeled shoes. I mean, roller skates are kind of like a fun thing to have, but I mean, wheeled shoes came like they were really popular like 10, 15 years ago. I feel like all the kids in like high school, and I always saw them like running around or I guess rolling around. They all had like those like ones at the bottom. I'm just doing this. I don't know if you knew what that meant, but it meant the wheel on like, I'm guessing it was like in the middle or the heel of like their shoes, and I used to see kids scooting around on them all the time. Yeah, and then, talks about maybe how kids are overweight nowadays, and because they ate so much Burger King was kind of like the what I took away from that. And still, like, the food ends up killing you and like your friends. And he talks about a super light baker, like someone who's like skinny, and like maybe comparing like the food that you actually make is healthier for you than the food that is prepared. Less preservatives and whatever. Sorry. Then when you buy it, it also makes me think of like a skinny baker. Like they're probably not testing their food, they're probably not tasting it, and they're putting it out and they're putting their name on it and stuff like that. But they haven't even tried it yet, so they're not. I mean, they can be pretty confident that their cake is going to be good, but maybe they put salt instead of sugar or something like that, and somehow, I don't know. But, you should always taste your own food, so you shouldn't necessarily trust a skinny baker. Not that a baker needs to be fat. I don't know. You do you. If the cake's good, you eat it, I guess. And milieu is sort of like the middle. Well, it's French. It means it's middle for French. And it kind of makes me think of like your belly. So obviously, like that's where you're gonna be, enjoying the cake, and that's where they're signing their belly, because they're basically saying like your belly is because of me, maybe. And he talks about his Buddhist view, and like way of life a little bit, and very calm and very peaceful, and maybe he meditated until he was able to look into himself and discover his true self, and like really like rise up, to like the next level of enlightenment, which is like nirvana, not to be confused with the band. And samsara, samara, I think, am I saying that right? I hope I am. Is apparently like the cycle in Buddhism of life, death, and rebirth and reincarnation and coming back again and again and again, forever and ever. Yeah, and it's really interesting if you ever really look into like Buddhism, like the way, like how your life plays out, like what you come back as next. If you've done well in life, or if you've been a nice and positive person and you haven't been violent or mean or anything like that, then you get, something better in your next life, and you get closer to where you want to be. Guys, we made it. That's the whole song. So that's it. Like that's the entire song. So that's where it ends. He's kind of like at this level of enlightenment. There's a lot going on here. This was a long song. If you have stuck it through this entire time, thank you guys. I did this for you guys. You wanted to see this, so here we are. So we made it to the end. Whoop, 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 whoop. And this is Lupe's mural. He's painted this beautiful, gigantic imagery in our heads. Like, it's, against the wall. He's seeing, his words come to life, basically. And it's not on a wall, but it's in our minds, and it's going to stay there, and it's going to like plant that image, all these images. There's so many of them, so many thoughts and things to look up and check everything out. Like, this took me weeks to like get this much, and I don't even have definitions and examples of everything. So, I think that this is basically, like I said, it's a mural. It's, sometimes a mural tells like several stories within it. And it still could be like a whole image at the same time. So I think that that's kind of what this song is. It's a whole bunch of little stories and little things and little thoughts that he feels are important enough for him to put out into the world in this beautiful song, which is like an eerie kind of. It's like you're not really sure how to feel because of the song. It kind of makes you feel like agitated a little bit, like just like the beat and like the sound of it and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting song. There's a lot to kind of go through, and give it a listen if you haven't already, and tell me, if you think I did an okay job. Let's go with okay job at breaking this whole song down. So that is it. I feel like I'm gross and sweaty already. So yeah, I feel like I'm gonna pretty much wrap it up. I would also like to thank our patrons on Patreon. If you are interested in subscribing, all the information is down below. You can click on the link and help support us, and we can get better equipment to serve you guys better. I would like to thank those who already have become our patrons over there, and that is Lindell Williams, Mozart, and Super Old School at 1994. So that I think is pretty much it. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that. It's at your lady friend Bonnie, or YLF Bonnie. So you can find me over there. I'm like, I want to be friends with all you guys. Come on. So yeah, I mean, yeah, let's do that. Let's hang out. Let me know if there's any other songs that you want me to break down, especially like summer type songs, or like maybe like back to school type songs, or like something like that that I can look into for the next bit. Not that I don't start talking about school yet. I don't want to see any school commercials or anything yet. It's too soon. But yeah, I guess that's it, guys. If you like this video, subscribe, leave some comments down below, show some love. Stick around. There's going to be plenty more. I do these every single week. So yeah, I guess until next week, guys. Bye!